Okay, so Karen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So Karen Khoury, Head of Digital Experience and CRM at Agthia. It's a good title, good chunk. We've known each other for a while. We've met in different kind of circumstances throughout the years now. But so this podcast series, we invite people that we think are interested in the world of CRM and customer experience. We've had some people on from Nissan Middle East, from Expo City, and now yourself. So looking forward to hear more, where we get to in our conversation today. But so what we'd like to start with our guests is kind of explain, who you are, how you got to where you are today. So if you could give us a bit of a background on yourself would be perfect.
Sure. So I didn't start off with a very usual classic career. I actually studied nutrition and started as an ice cream taster for Häagen-Dazs. That is a job. But I quickly realized that was not the thing for me. And I started shifting into customer experience and then the tech side of it. I was heading a lot of omni-channel transformation projects, a lot of CRM setups as well. And now I am heading Digital Experience and CRM, like you said, at Agthia, an FMCG, regional FMCG. Before that, I've worked in automotive, I've worked in luxury retail and consumer electronics for a long time. So multi-industry, but always with the customer at the heart.
Okay, and always a kind of B2C or B2B2C flavor most of the time, or
a mix of both.
Yeah.
A mix of both. So I've in consumer electronics, for example, it was a very large global multinational. So we had all models. So we had the struggle of, hey, someone bought a washing machine, but we don't have any clue who they are or where they've bought it from. We just know we sold a washing machine. And then, clearly in luxury retail, it's more a one-to-one experience in store, loyalty programs, the lovely world of data around it. So, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I find it interesting with luxury how I know a lot of business and big business is done via WhatsApp and kind of, is it a challenge that is sometimes handled outside of what you can see from a central point of view sometimes with the data and interactions, and like how does that work?
So when we were there, we actually mapped out the personas. And
Okay.
there is a persona that does not want you to get in their inbox or send them these generic invitations. They do want that one-to-one call from their personal shopper that they know by name and getting that invite. So there is a certain profile of consumers that want that. They're looking for that only me, it's just for me, it's exclusive type of relationship. Are they the mass of your base? Absolutely not. Do they contribute a lot to your sale? They absolutely do. So you might not have all the data you want on them, but you have that one-to-one relationship that your retail team establishes with them, and that's invaluable. But you do have a lot of other people that you can collect a lot of data about their purchase history, their behavior, all of that, and are more open to interacting with your marketing material.
Okay, yeah, sure, I can appreciate that. And we on that kind of note on data collection, and it's a challenge sometimes, I think, for companies or organizations in this region. I find a little bit compared to maybe Europe or other places where I often get a lot of offers or things sent to me that I shouldn't be that persona. Like, surely not for me to. Sometimes it can be, I don't know, certain clothing that's only for women or whatever it might be that I get. And I'm thinking, okay, so that trust with, I trust you with all my data if you only send me relevant things. I think that's evolving in the region. That's getting better and better. But how have you handled that before in your different roles where you've been in terms of collecting data, using it in a kind of trustworthy way and giving people the relevant experience? Like, how have you dealt with that? I know it's a bit of a challenge.
It depends on the market and the maturity. I think that there's a big element on data privacy as well that maybe the region has not matured into. So when you're running CRM campaigns or any type of marketing in Europe, you're a lot more selective about the campaigns you're sending because consumers have that control over their privacy, and you want to avoid at all costs that unsubscribe and delete my account type of behavior. While here in the region, I'm sure like you, me, everyone else gets a million random WhatsApps or calls. Do you have a property to sell or do you want a property to buy, whether you're a target audience or not? So in the region here, I think consent and data sharing is not in the same silos of protection that you see in Europe or in the US or in some Asian countries. So I think that there is a lot of laxity in how data is being used today. If I get a marketing content that is not relevant to me, I simply unsubscribe. And I think a lot of people do that. There are no controls here to make sure you do unsubscribe. I sometimes find it rather impossible to get off a company's database. But I think here it's partially the regulation. The regulation is there, it's just not being enforced. But it's also the ethics or the approach that a company wants to take towards their data. So I've been in companies where even if there was no local legislation, it was like, no, we're not going to market to someone unless we have certain guardrails, first on consent, second on the relevance of the material that we're sending them. We don't want to do mass emails. We don't want to do mass SMSs or campaigns. We really want to target our audience and segment it. While in other organizations, they just want to do the junk bulk emails. And that's fine in certain industry, I guess. But that's not the approach I'd rather go with. You know, like you said, you get these women's clothing advertising. I get men's perfume. You know, it's not that relevant, and it's a waste of money for those companies. More than the annoyance it causes to the customer that's receiving it. You know, you're spending money on those campaigns, creating them, sending them. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, and I think it's also kind of touches on another thing I wanted to ask you about is this, you know, how organizations adopt CRM as a concept, as a process, and systems and technology as well, because I feel like often some organizations don't spend enough time sometimes with the kind of internal education and onboarding of teams, so that they don't really, and I feel bad sometimes for the poor person who calls me or WhatsApps me. And, you know, I might have an adverse reaction to what they send me, but it's not their fault. They've been told to, here's a list of, 100,000 people, just send WhatsApp to these people. And it's not really, you know, us being in the business, so to speak, we know that's not best practice, but it's not the person's fault doing it. So how are you seeing initiatives work in terms of onboarding large organizations, you know, with CRM initiatives and platforms and changes in that?
I think in a lot of places, CRM ends up being an IT project, right? And then I think that's the downfall. CRM is a strategy before anything else. You have to have a strategy as to what am I doing with this consumer data? What is my target with that data? But also have a strategy on collecting that data. The system, the execution of the campaigns comes next. So absolutely, the internal education and the change management that needs to happen in organizations that are either introducing a CRM system or scaling up a CRM system is the key component. Transformation is not installing new software. It's a whole transformation of the people first. What I've seen is, well, I can say firsthand it's worked in my previous experience, is running proof of concepts, right? So today, you can get a marketeer that can dream up, and I'm not a marketeer, right? That can dream up a very fantastic campaign that requires, you know, maybe a week of data and analytics to just pull out the segment that they're looking at. But then you try and implement that, it's going to take you forever to monetize on that use case. And no one really understands what they're asking for, how much effort it takes to set up. I find that if you start small, like crawl first, let's try a use case that's simple. I don't want you to spend money on integrating your data from day one. Let's start with a single source. Which system do I have today that has a little bit of data in it? Let me use that. Let me look at the segment I can get out of that very simply. I don't need to cross-check it with a million things. And let's think of a targeted campaign that would be relevant to that segment without being intrusive. And start there. And you'll see when people start getting the analytics that come out of CRM campaigns, that's where the light bulb really triggers. Oh, this many people unsubscribed. Okay, maybe I need to be more careful about my relevance in my messaging. Oh, this many people email bounced. All right, let me go back and look at my data collection and the validation of the data at collection point. So I think a lot of it comes from testing and learning and prototyping and playing around with very basic use cases that don't cost you a fortune to start, but you can prove that the concept works. It helps you build up momentum, convincing that leadership team that sometimes does not want to give you the budget or the people to do what you want to do. And if you start there, I think the people are on board, they're engaged, they're thinking in CRM terminology before you get into that big scoping document for your big deployment. And once the deployment team is there, trying to build up that, be it a technical team or a more strategic team working on strategies, you're talking the same language. they know how much effort it takes to set up a use case and how much time it takes to set up a full end-to-end multi-channel journey. It just makes it so much simpler to get people around the table collaborating and speaking with the same objectives.
I think that's some very good points. I think what we try to do when we work with organizations is, and it can sound a bit fluffy, but we say like, well, what are the business value streams that we're trying to support? And I think the more people in the more technical side of things understand that they need to explain the business benefits to whichever level of people in their organizations to get the buy-in, so that they get what you're trying to achieve. Because just because you have some weird and wonderful campaign or a really cool piece of tech that you want to install, or you want to swap one system for another, it doesn't necessarily do anything for a CFO or a. Now I'm happy to see more and more C-suites now having chief data officers, we're kind of getting to understand how important that is with the data. And I think sometimes, I've been in the region 17 years now. And when I first moved there, I remember speaking to companies and they didn't really look at data as the value of their business in a way. They more, no, we sell this, or this is what we do. This is our services. These are our, the products that we do. Whereas building up the data, in modern ways, it's the real value, really. And if you're a big company now, you have to, in some ways, be a big tech company. And roles before that were, if you were in marketing, for example, maybe it was more important the way your campaigns looked, and if you have a good tagline, and it was more of a creative role. Whereas now it turns into a very technical role, or at least you have to speak KPIs and numbers and that. So how have you seen that in organizations you've been? How have you been able to navigate that? Because I know you've been in some big organizations here, so it must have been some pros and cons of that.
I think data collection is the tricky bit, because you can have the best journeys mapped and the best content, dynamic content that you can, A/B test and run, personalization on. But if you don't have a big stack of data to start with, your segmentation is not going to be good enough to run those campaigns. So I've been in places where, let's say, the data collection point, especially the transactional ones, fall under a lot of financial restrictions, in the sense that finance does not allow you to do guest checkout, for example. Or someone from accounting wants to collect these 10 fields about you in during your checkout process or your registration process. Or someone from sales says, no, you have to create a profile for you to check out. Well, that takes away from the volume of data that you can collect. And that sometimes is the struggle in a lot of places I've been in. Say, no, I don't need to ask everything about you from the first interaction. My team laughs, but sometimes I tell them that CRM is like a relationship with a girlfriend or a boyfriend or husband and wife. You don't want to know everything about them on day one. It's dating. It's like slowly building up that momentum of getting to know you, building trust, wanting to share more with each other. And consumer data is the same. A consumer just wants to check out, especially in an e-commerce context. They just want to check out. And you need that 1 or 2 golden fields that you can use to hook them back in and get that data out of them later in the relationship. So when you get a lot of restrictions when it comes to, these KPIs should be purely ROI, for example. But what you're trying to do is, for example, drive engagement or drive lifetime value. And with a lot of finance teams, it's difficult to discuss lifetime values. Not everyone gets it. It's more, what is my net sales now? Why are you spending money now, but not getting me the return at month's end? No, this is building a relationship over, the 3-5 years this consumer is going to be with us. Their lifetime will increase because I'm doing these 2 campaigns. So that is sometimes a difficult conversation to have when you're building a business case. Yes.
Yeah, I can understand that. No, I think especially one project we did was a loyalty management rollout, and I remember it was nice because the management team and the customers, they were actually surprised of what they could see. And they could see now, compare a loyalty customer compared to a non-loyalty customer, the size of the baskets that they, how much do they spend, how many items do they buy whenever they buy something, how often do they come back, and all of a sudden they could see they had some outlets maybe they thought were more successful, but then they realized that the products that people were buying, yes, the volume and the numbers were high, but the revenue and the margins were very low. So now they could see that in real time. not a month old data, so they could react in real time. And I think they were surprised by that. And for us, I mean, for us, it's quite a small thing, but you have to also sometimes, I think, in our roles, like for you and for myself, is sometimes to slow down and know that when something is new and just rely on the kind of heavier, like this is very important, then you just stop and let them kind of digest and learn and see. And then you can, because it's easy, we want to speed ahead. But before you've built the foundation, then it's really hard to do all the interesting stuff that we want to do on top of it.
So I'll give you an example. So we have one of our brands is a dates brand. It wasn't very known. It was not known at all, I would say. They had a few stores, in the other Emirates. They had their own local loyal customers that would walk into the boutique and buy it. So that brand was on the chopping board to be cut out of the company. And I proposed, can we try e-commerce? I just want to get some data and see, because e-commerce is your D2C is a great place to collect data. So we did that on a little Shopify store. You don't need big implementations. Just a credit card, set up a store, a few basic things with the e-commerce team. We set that up. And then what we found is we had a huge base in Dubai. So purely using organic marketing, just SEO and those kind of things, we sold a lot more in Dubai than we ever did in any of our boutiques in the other Emirates. And we had no physical stores in Dubai itself. And then from there was a certain product line that they were looking at cutting out. But what we found is, no, this is where customers are coming back to buy. This is a refill item. We call them loose dates. It's just a date, right? It's not a big fancy gift box that you buy seasonally. It's something you fill up your little snack jar at home with. And we found that, no, that category is what 50% of our customers come back just to buy it. And that's data you were not getting in the store. And that's the power of data. E-commerce is an example because e-commerce is a great way to collect data that you can't really collect offline. But then we started using that data to say, okay, very good. Let's test things. Let's see. If I advertise a gift box for someone who has bought the plain dates, how likely are they to buy it? And with Shopify, it's very easy because everything's built in. You don't need to be an expert on any specific tool. It's very user friendly. It's not enterprise, I get it, I know. But for testing and learning, it's a very good platform. So we started testing different concepts and we started building up what's our cross-selling purely from email marketing. We didn't have a big base, so we had to be very selective about which campaigns we ran to how many people. And we started targeting different areas with different types of products and narrowed down a little bit what works well with each other. And from these CRM campaigns that we ran, we were able to say, okay, if you're on this product page checking out, these are the 3 products I want to recommend for you to add to your basket. And the ROI coming from that was very, very, very high. So yeah, we didn't have the data. We used CRM to kind of force the data. And then we were sure when we were deploying it that we would get results. So, yeah.
That's interesting. It's such a good example of, like you mentioned before, even today, like a little proof of concept or a little MVP, or, we say start small, and scale fast from there. Think big, start small, scale fast. Sorry, didn't get it right. And I think that's important because it's good to have, and this region have a lot of leadership who have, their visions are incredible. Like we've seen what they've built over the past, 20, 30, 40 years. So the visionaries, we don't have to look that very far to find them, but then to translate what they want into something we can do on a small scale, but still show them the type of value that they can get. So maybe your data example is a good example where they could see this as, this is something they can repeat over other product lines and other brands and other parts of the business, I guess.
And I think I completely agree. There's a lot of visionaries here. The problem with the slightly older companies who have been established in the region for a long time is sometimes their technology stack is not up to par. So the vision is sky high, but executing on that vision is a very big challenge. So sometimes you have to think out of the box so that you're not waiting for 2-3 years for a big deployment to come in. You're gathering data in the meantime, refining your use cases, trying to get those metrics that you're looking for. What's my conversion rate on this type of campaign? What is my bounce rate? And that helps you build up the business case that you need for the big tech deployment that will come up. But yeah, vision is absolutely there. It's getting to it that is the challenge.
Mm-hmm. No, I think I think that's true. And but I find the way this region seems to work with technology is that is any area where we might lag behind a little bit, but then there's like a big leap. Then you have, all of a sudden, we have a minister of AI. I don't think many countries have that. So they do, it's incredible sometimes the steps that can be taken here, and especially where there are funds to spend on things. But I also find it interesting to see how you see now, you have these big companies, but they also have lots of smaller companies starting to pop up now. And I see a lot of nice initiatives. I was at GITEX a couple of days this week, and I went to the smaller startup one in the marina, North Star. Sorry, I forget what it's called.
Yeah,
the new one. And I thought, wow, there's so many things, but it's hard sometimes. Everything says AI this, AI that. I'm like, okay, but what does it do, or how can I buy it? Or so it's an interesting conversation now around AI. And I sat down with a customer the other week, and they were looking at doing some initiative around AI, and I almost slowed them down and said, look, wait. What are you trying to achieve? Let's look at that. Forget about if it's called AI or automation or CRM or something else. Because I know you will get budget. If you say I have an AI project, you might get budget for it. But what are you trying? Like you will be asked to show some value at the end or at some point. So how are you looking at that? Is that something that's on your table at the moment, or is it just like a hot potato that you pass off to other people?
I think every single executive has AI in their roadmap, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, for me, I don't think a lot of enterprises are ready for AI at scale. Right? Yes, ChatGPT is great. I use it. I call it my sixth team member. It's absolutely brilliant if you can prompt it correctly and do all of that. But if you just throw AI on a stack of data that doesn't make sense, that has mistakes in it, AI is not going to go and correct your email address. It's just going to pull out that data it's going to make it look prettier, but not necessarily correct. So, and the problem with AI is a lot of people think you could just plug it in and it will do the magic it needs to do, and there's no human intervention needed on top of that. So you go from maybe 6 weeks on a data cleansing exercise to a 6-second prompt on AI. But that's not true. I think AI will transform how we do things, but I think there should be a certain level of foundation. AI is great if you have a clean data stack. It's great if you have very streamlined processes. But when you start throwing in exceptions and issues with the data, AI becomes at risk of making mistakes and maybe hurting you rather than automating a lot of the work that you're trying to do. So I think AI will absolutely be part of enterprises, I would say, in the next 2 to 3 years. Is it next month? I don't think so. All I've seen so far has been little AI initiatives, a chatbot here and there, a built-in AI support within one of the tools that you use, things like that. But I haven't yet seen a solution that I think can completely transform my work today in the state of the data and the technology that I'm dealing with in my current environment today.
Mm-hmm. I think that makes sense. I mean, in one way, when AI has become more and more of a topic, I feel like you almost have to, in your brain, and those of us that have been around a little while, you have to almost go back in time a little bit. It's more now about infrastructure, data, like the kind of the maybe not so sexy things underneath everything. It's so important now to be able to enable all the fantastic things that we want to do with AI. And I think whenever we meet big organizations now, always try to bring up the, concept of, CDPs and how do you, where is the data? How can we connect it? How can we stitch it together? And what will that give us? And it can be hard sometimes to get budget and initiatives like almost only do that, only do the basic things that feel basic but are so important to then empower things. So I think you're right. I think AI is it is a buzzword, but it's also obviously very powerful. And I'm of the same opinion as you. It's fine as a consumer to use it for kind of random things, and even now some people say we can generate this and that, we can build no code or vibe coding, whatever they call it. But I've failed at the moment to see how that scales to some sort of enterprise or even mid-size company level, because it's hard to really grasp it. And I think I've been quite honest with customers saying, look, I might know a little bit more about AI than you do, but no one really knows. If someone says they know everything about, or maybe Sam Altman and some people who know, these magicians, they know more than we do. But to really know how to harness it is more of a long conversation and a roadmap that needs to be taken, I think, with a bit of, like, probably good to move a bit slowly and not jump one way or the other.
I think AI will transform a lot of customer service, definitely. And I see that happening a lot sooner than other areas. I don't know if you've tried Sesame.com. They have 2 voice AIs. One is called Maya and one is called Miles. It's not advertising for them. But if you speak with them, they're more human than some of my, some people I work with every day. It is phenomenal what they've managed to do, and absolutely impressive. Would I rather be speaking to an AI bot than a live agent? Probably. It takes away barriers, especially with offshoring of customer service, right? It takes away barriers of language, of accent. But again, the AI can only answer you based on the documentation that they've been fed. So if you don't have that documentation, if that AI does not have access to your 360 customer profile, to your transaction history, they're not going to be able to help you much more than a human can. I think a layer of AI is layered now. So I see AI as a layer within a bigger solution, but maybe not a solution on its own. But yeah, I think we all have a lot to learn about AI. I've signed up to for a class. I think I'd really want to know how it works and how things happen in the back end rather than being a front end user. But yeah, AI is going to support us in a lot of things, but we definitely need to be ready for it.
No, I think, and it's like customer service is kind of an obvious one where you think AI, if you have a big, knowledge base or a big source of data that I want to ask questions about, definitely I think customer service is a kind of an obvious one. And you're right, but we've seen we've seen a lot of it, really. But I also think sometimes if you speak to these kind of bespoke AI companies, say they can build, a voice assisted AI agentic agent that can help with whatever you want. The challenge for those types of companies, I always find when I speak to them is, but how do I pay for it? Because they sit on the lap of someone else who sits on the lap of someone. So it's always this kind of hierarchy of this stack of technology that it's not so obvious for me as a company or as a business owner or as a consumer. How do I pay for it? Is it like 1 dirham per conversation? No, well, it depends on the number of tokens. Okay, well, how do I know? So it's hard to, I think, even for the companies that are really good at AI, they sometimes can struggle to make it into a business conversation, because obviously if I run a hospital and I can have this magic agent or group of agents that can answer anything, and they can diagnose you on the phone and point you to the right doctor, and they can book your appointment, they can follow up with you. That sounds great. But unless you can tell me how long does it take to implement, how does it scale, how does the cost scale over time, those type of things, I think sometimes I find the industry is not ready.
How do you fine tune it? You've built it, you've went live with it. Do you have the skill sets internally for someone to look into the intent? Where is this AI failing to answer? How do I correct it? Do I have the right guardrails? Is my AI hallucinating or giving the wrong? So AI is not just a plug and play and you're done. It is a product. Yeah. It's a continuous evolution and enhancement, and you're going to need specific skill sets within the teams that, well, I would say most companies do not have today, to manage and maintain that AI and keep it evolving along with your own processes and seasonality as well.
I think that's right. And I think that's the trade-off I see companies doing as well, or organizations doing rather, is either you go bespoke, so to speak, and then you're right, then the risk is higher in a way, because you have to control more kind of on your own, so to speak. But if you go with a big platform provider, like a big CRM platform provider, they will have AI and agentic things that you can do with them. And they, in one way, you're limited. You can't do all of the things that your bespoke AI can do. But within that box that they provide, I think some companies feel safer there, because, good, then I know these are the guardrails, and there's quite a user-friendly front end that your CRM team or your IT team can manage, at least the aspects of AI that they need to manage. And it's easier in a sense to see how you can connect it to your CRM and your database and yours. I think that kind of trade-off is interesting to see where people will go. I think there might be a combination. You might use some bespoke AI for certain things in an organization, but for your customer service or for your sales teams, or if you use your marketing, whatever it might be, I think people might, tend to go more towards the established platforms, so to speak. But it's interesting to see. It's interesting to see the big platforms now, how they act, because you have AI players that go from 0 to 1,000% in no time, and they say they can do all these magical things, and they can. So it's hard, I think, for people and for companies to see what's there and what's just a pitch almost.
Yeah,
it's.
We use Microsoft Dynamics, and they have quite a few AI functionalities built in. Is Copilot the best one out there? Probably not, but it's there, it's available, it's within our environment. So we have tested a few things with it, and I absolutely agree, back to your point on the cost. We calculated that it calculates based on messages. So it's not a full conversation, it's a message. But today we didn't have data to know how many back and forth is the customer going to have with that bot. So our assumptions were completely off when we first started, because we took it off of human conversation that we've had. But human does not tell you, sorry, I don't understand, please come back, please repeat the question.
Yeah.
And we had quite a few loops with that going back and forth that racked up our cost quite a bit at the beginning. We're at a better place now, but yeah, I would say try AI with the solutions that you have available today. Definitely safer to do it within platforms that you're already using, that have the security control, the normal maintenance and support that comes with it. But every organization will have to come and see a little bit how much AI can they bring in, because not everything can be AI.
No, that's true. And I think what we can see happening a little bit at the moment is you have these kind of app stores or play stores for AI. And I think my guess, or educated guess, would be that you will get more and more very specialized AI. So I can maybe buy an AI that can read and understand contracts with UAE labor law, for example. So I'd buy that AI. But then I also might need an AI that checks that AI, so it's actually doing things correctly. So you have like a network of AI maybe that will help each other. And also within these established platforms like Salesforce, Microsoft, HubSpot, etc., you can see in their app stores, so in the app stores and the other places for those platforms, you can see there that companies are starting to put AI. Here's an Azure agentic agent that can do XYZ, and people are starting to resell that. And I think that's one way of not having to do all the testing yourself. You can kind of buy plugins or ready-made things and have a bit of a mix there. But so what are you, at the moment, you're using some agentic AI things or some AI things from Microsoft. What are you, is there any specific use case that you think is interesting, or is it more?
We're a little bit more on the basics. So for mass brands, like our water brands, with water, we have about 500,000 subscribers. So it's a very big base, and everyone wants their water. And when you don't get your water, you are very upset. So we do have an AI chatbot on our water delivery for customer support. Purely because of the volumes we get, and that helps us at least channel some of the requests through automation. We have also AI implemented in the agent desktop, again from customer service. The agent desktops, because sometimes they want to fix the tone of voice that they're using, or they're more comfortable maybe typing in English and want to translate it into Arabic, or vice versa. So more on the support in an AI on tonality, sentiment analysis, and the translation part. So that's where we have it so far, because that is where the strongest use cases were. The business case was there. So it's very easy to justify the ROI on a chat bot when you say, well, I can reduce the volume or my wait time on my customer service queue.
Yeah, of course.
That is very easy to justify. But if you go into, well, I want my marketing automation to go in AI, it's slightly a more difficult business case to put together. With the data we have today, with the history and benchmarks that we have today of how these automations can help us. So we've definitely started in customer service first. We do have plans to include it with marketing, but we're yet to integrate the data that we need to start off those journeys. So hopefully when we do, AI will be, I think, as it should be, an integral part of the design. So you design with AI, working with your journeys from day one. So you make sure the data is correct, the flows are built for AI to understand, simplified enough, and your testing is done with AI from day one.
Yeah, that's. I think yes. I think AI. One use case I think might come up more and more as well is to be able to test at scale with AI. So generate, test data with AI as well, and to be able to really in a safe way kind of test things in-house before you go out. But I remember as well speaking to, if you speak to airlines, for example, people where their data is super important, that is correct. And there is an old example of one airline, I think it's in APAC somewhere, where they invested so much money into this AI to tell people, when's my flight, what gate is it, etc. But then that AI model started hallucinating and sent people to the wrong gates on the wrong day at the wrong time. So basically you have to kill the whole model, then you had to just stop the whole model, go back to old school customer service, so to speak. I think for those industries, and maybe banking is another one, where they have very important and sensitive information. If you get it wrong, then it has major impact. I think they're still a little hesitant to go all in with AI. And I understand them as well, because one thing that I think people don't like is the kind of sense of loss of control, where, the AI does it now. But then, how do I know what's been done, or how can I follow the kind of track there? It would be interesting.
And I think if we go back to that persona, and when we were first talking about, do all customers want, automated marketing? I think also not all customers want to speak to AI.
Sure.
If you are within that persona of that customer that's looking to that personalized experience, ultra luxury maybe segment, they probably don't want your AI. But if you're looking more in FMCG, mass, maybe AI makes more sense there. Your segment is maybe less refined. You've got broader data sets, things like that. But I think that some people and some industries still want that human joke and knowing you at a personal level that AI cannot offer. And absolutely data sensitive industries, like you said. But hey, AI is here. It's not going anywhere. We will have to find a way to integrate it. It's just that, we're in the middle of an AI storm. I think the dust will settle, and there will be a lot of ways for us to work with AI. I think everyone's testing things right now. A lot of these apps and solutions that have come up, some of them will not make it. Some of them will get scaled. But we're all going to have to find a way how to get AI involved.
No, it's true. I think as well, I sometimes feel like maybe a year ago, or maybe even less, we were talking about generative AI. So you can generate things for us. And that's people almost stopped talking about that. Now it has to be, or agentic, it has to be, this new modern way of it. But I haven't even seen many companies use generative AI at scale either, in terms of, because I would have thought maybe by now, or maybe it will be one day soon, where your typical marketing automation platform will more be the skeleton of your customer journeys there, but there'll be no content. It will just be generated on the fly for you, depending on all these criteria. Here's your image that we generated. It's not even a ready-made image that we pulled from the CMS. It will be more of a kind of on the fly all the way through. And I think maybe that's something that I think will happen more and more, because you see more and more now being able to generate videos, even as a consumer, just generate a funny video of, I don't know, my dog flying a helicopter, and then you can just type it in and it happens, and it seems strange in a way, but I think that's an interesting one.
I think the content generating has reached agencies. So maybe as a brand, you don't generate that much content to justify having these big solutions. But a lot of the agencies we work with today, we just provide them the CGI or the virtual twin of our product, and they're generating a lot of our campaign images purely through Gen AI. I want my bottle of water with a beach background or a desert background or changing seasonality. They're doing a lot of that with generative AI. Again, I'm waiting to see, will these rank as well? Will people start telling, oh, this is an AI-generated image? Same on social media today. You have to declare that this is an AI-generated image. Right. So I think caution here, especially if you're in larger organization, caution is a little bit the approach I'm seeing. But yeah, it's going to change. I do presentations with my own Gen AI instead of spending hours looking for an image in a stock file. AI absolutely helps with that. But yeah, a lot to do, a lot to come. It's going to be an interesting time.
Yeah, I think so. And I think in the CRM platforms, you see as well how they're trying to, they've had some sort of agent feel for a long time. Like you've had your Einstein on Salesforce side. Microsoft have had Copilot for a long time. I almost think back to when in Microsoft Office there used to be that bouncing ball or the paper clip and hey, can I help you? So they've had that kind of idea for a long time. But I think now there is a big rebuild in many of the platforms where they make it properly part of the whole architecture. And I think integration is a topic that, if I look at companies like ourselves and our competition or our competitors and our kind of friends in the business, we've always integrated in terms of we have to integrate CRM with an ERP or with another platform and pull some data here and there. But now, in every conversation now, integration is almost the first topic, because you have to be able to pull data, to transform data, to feed it into, how do you make all the data you have, all the integrations, all the APIs or whatever you have, how do you make them ready so we can plug agents on top of them? I think it's a very interesting way to see how there are some ways that can be done today. But that's another one where I think we will need, because before in the CRM field, in terms of implementing CRMs, it's been more like point and click, kind of everything's in the cloud and you click here and this happens, and it's quite simple in one sense. But I think the level of complexity is now increasing, which makes it's a new kind of new challenge for, I think, many companies in CRM, both people who my consultancies like ourselves or people on the customer side, so to speak, such as yourself, to see how that plays. Because you have to know, I know you're right, I don't want CRM projects to be an IT project. And I used to say kind of jokingly that the tech is going to be the easy part. We just have to handle the people and the processes, which is still true. But the technical component now and the involvement of IT and infrastructure teams, I think they need to be sometimes brought up to speed or brought into the conversation more than maybe they used to before. There was much more like, oh, here's a new system for you to manage, here's the login, here's what you can do. If you need help, ask these consultants to do this. But now I think they need to be brought into the conversation in a different way.
And I think another change that's coming is today, a lot of the traffic, the web traffic, has moved to your ChatGPT and other solutions. That's a key engagement point for high intent customers. How are we tracking it? So I don't have all the knowledge, but in the little research that I've done, I haven't seen CDPs integrating any data from your AI tools today. Mm-hmm. And if you listen to everyone talking that is in SEO and in search, everyone's saying you need to update your website so that you're shoppable from a ChatGPT, for example. Otherwise, you're going to be irrelevant. But if consumers are no longer coming to my website, where I am tracking most of their data and collecting most of their data, and now they're doing their browsing, their consideration, and even sometimes their purchase straight out of these AI apps, how am I getting this data? How am I enriching that customer profile with behavior and building up my profile for me to segment them and market to them properly? Will I be able to advertise to them in GPT? Same as WhatsApp. WhatsApp was this fantastic free app, but now you can do advertising in it. So I think in a few, not too long, I'm not going to say a few years, these things are moving very quickly, but that's a whole new channel, I think, that the tools need to catch up on gathering data there. And I think also in terms of outbound communication channel, that might be somewhere where we end up going.
No, I think that's true. I think it's very, it's interesting to see, because I think we need to help like our organizations or our customers to align on those topics. I think it's an interesting one with AI. And WhatsApp is also obviously a big channel in the region here. I don't think I've seen a channel like it anywhere else, where people buy a house and get a bank loan over this. Like you said, I think of it as I can chat with my friends. That's where WhatsApp at least used to be in my head. And It's also a challenge, I think, especially in where you service consumers or where you deliver things to consumers. I often find that I order something from a company, for example, or a company is coming to service my AC or something at home. And I order on, so I know I'm in their process, I'm in their journey with them. But then a totally random phone number calls me or WhatsApp me, can you send your location, please? And now I know, being in the field that we are in, I'm like, now I'm outside. This is not, no one will see this. This isn't going to pop up on Karen's dashboard that I've, communicated with sometimes external delivery company or the driver. So I think I haven't seen anything. I've been keen to hear if you have, but I haven't really seen anyone who's properly solved that, because you're not going to get away from the one-to-one or one-to-many WhatsApp conversation. I think that culture is already here. We can't get away from it. So have you had any ideas or heard anything on that? Or
it's a sensitive topic for me. I find WhatsApp marketing very intrusive. That's a personal opinion. Clearly, a lot of people don't agree with that, but that's a personal opinion. So for me, WhatsApp for transactional updates is fine. What we've done is we've partnered with a delivery partner that automates their WhatsApp transactional and delivery details. So if you order from one of our date brands, Sedina, you will get an automated WhatsApp that asks you to validate your address and then updates you of when the driver's coming. And you get live tracking as well if you want to. So there is no random number that is contacting you. There is no someone who maybe doesn't speak English on the other side. And you don't have that break in the experience. Because I think for me, these drivers are doing a great job. They've got a very difficult job. But in a lot of cases, that's where the customer journey and experience is breaking. And it's invisible to you sitting, in the office monitoring what's going on. It's completely invisible. So we've automated this completely. We didn't have the solution in-house. So we went to a 3PL vendor that offered it. And we're able to track, what time was every message sent. How long did it take the customer to validate their address? We get the data returned to say the address is not what you had on record. There's a new address on record. And we know exactly when the package was delivered. So we're able to track the metrics of the journey. Especially in e-commerce, people think that your job ends when you get the order. No, it's when the order is delivered. So we wanted to track that all the way to the end. So there are solutions out there, maybe not for all scale. This is a smaller scale project that we've done, but it's there. Now, when it comes to outbound WhatsApp marketing, the data's there. There are returns. But I do think it's overused. Again, if I go to we need to think of the brand and what you're trying to sell. If my jewelry brand is sending me a WhatsApp, automated, of course, WhatsApp campaign to tell me about their seasonal launch versus my water brand telling me that, hey, I know your 500 ml water is back in stock. I wouldn't want to hear from my water brand, but I do want to hear from my jewelry brand. So I think, again, it's that personalization. That's not only what data do I have, but also what channel do I use for which customer, for which brand, especially when you're working like myself in a multi-brand organization. It's not one size fits all. So you segment your audience, but you're also very selective with the channel that you're using to talk to those consumers.
Well, that's that's interesting to hear about your delivery. That's impressive, because I know even some well-known brands falter, I think, on that point. And I almost like a pet peeve. I get like, no, this should be better. Like, especially if I expect more from some brands when that happens. And with WhatsApp marketing, when people kind of spam me on WhatsApp, I kind of want to say, I want to respond saying, you're not supposed to do this. And I kind of block them quite often, or you can report them. I don't think much happens if you report them. But sometimes I respond and say, you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to just spam everyone these messages. And quite often I get, and it's back to the point of education, I get back a response back saying, no, but this is just part of our marketing, sir. I was like, I know, but okay. So sometimes I don't know where to go with that conversation.
To me. You just wasted some money on
I know, and time and money, but yeah, WhatsApp is an interesting topic. But I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you very much, Karen. It's so nice to have you on, and some really good insights there. Thank you. And
Thank you for having me.